Today we're going to talk about some things we can play in a slow blues, and we're going to reference a great performance by B.B. King for some inspiration. I'm going to show you 3 licks and a few different ways to approach them. This way you can find the way that works best for you. First up, here's a solo performance that I put together using the 3 licks we're going to discuss in this lesson. This is a slow blues in G, and all the tabs and notation for this are available on my Patreon site. So the inspiration for this solo came from a great live recording of B.B. King on the BBC. I'll put a link down in the description, so definitely go give that a listen. Now this first lick is a bending lick straight out of the minor pentatonic, the G minor pentatonic scale. And it's going to use the notes G, B flat, C, and D. But we're going to do a unique thing of bending into a lot of these notes. So the way I played the phrase in my solo was... Now this is kind of my unique way of playing this type of lick. Now BB generally would do this kind of thing a little bit different because he used much lighter strings. He was able to get this bend from C up to D with just his index finger. Right, which is a little hard if you're using like 10 or 11 gauge strings. So I like to make a little shift and switch to my ring finger. That way I have the support of my index finger and middle finger behind that finger to help reinforce the bend. And then I can just move the whole thing down a whole step and bend from B flat to C. And then wind up on G. So the notes are G, then bend from B flat to C on the B string, and then grab C and bend up to D on the high E string, and then go down a whole step and bend from B flat up to C, and then release that bend and go down to G. But of course you can also play that bend from B flat to C here on the B string as well. It has a little bit of a different sound. Playing stuff on the high E string is going to have a bit of a brighter sound, but you could play it like this. And depending on what you're playing next, that will definitely determine where you want to go with this. If I'm going to be playing something that's going to move up the neck, I may want to end on this G rather than down here. Right, so a really cool, very versatile bending lick. It actually works over any part of the progression. You can play it over the 1 chord, as sort of a motif to play throughout the solo, or you can play it over the 4 chord or the 5 chord. All right, so this next lick is going to go up to the flat 7, the note F. right? And we're going to use that and kind of add it to the other notes we were playing. This is the fifth note of the minor pentatonic scale, right? We have G, B flat, C, D, and F. And so the way this lick starts, I like to do it by sliding up to the F. Now, BB, if you listen to the way he plays it in this solo, he bends up to that note. And that's another great way of doing it, too. You would actually bend from D up a minor third all the way to F. You hear BB and Freddie King do these kinds of bends all the time. But it's, there's a lot of tension on that string when you're bending up a minor third. So sometimes when we're playing something a little bit busier with more notes, I like to just slide up to that note. And it has a slightly different sound. It's something that I think you can kind of get the BB thing with, but it just makes it a little bit more unique and maybe a little bit more of your own thing. So the lick starts by sliding from D up to F, and then it hits the F twice, and then back down to D, and then back to F one more time. And then from D, a quick pull off to C, and then grab B flat on the B string and bend it up a half step, and then land on G. And then a really common thing with BB when you hit the root is to then come down and hit a little double stop with E and G, right? That E is the major sixth, which gives it, kind of a brighter sound. So this third lick works specifically over the 4 chord of our progression. And this is a really cool lick that uses a lot of the same notes we've been playing and some similar bending techniques. But it has a really unique sound, and it works great over the C chord in our G blues. Right, so it starts out by hitting the note D, and then he's going to bend from D up a whole step to E. And the reason for that is E is the major third of our C major chord. So he's specifically targeting that chord tone to outline the sound of that chord, which is a very hip thing to do. So from D, slowly bending up to E, and then releasing back to D, and then it's a very similar thing to the first phrase we played, coming down to C, bending up to D, and then from B flat up to C, and then finally down to G. And then from there, you can put different tags on the end of it. In BB's solo, he kind of combines it with sort of the first lick that we played. So a very useful phrase, really cool, unique sound that really channels that B.B. King flavor. And again, as you get comfortable with these phrases, you can start combining them together as they become part of your vocabulary, right? Right, so check out the original solo, check out BB's playing. It's a really great example of him playing over a slow blues because he plays for a long time and really builds this beautiful solo that uses a lot of this very simple harmonic content, mostly just kind of pentatonic based stuff. But with the phrasing and with the excellent bending, it really becomes something great. And the key to kind of getting this sound together is really getting your bends in tune. And I've talked about this before, but the way I like to practice that is by playing the fretted note first and then bending to that note. So if we want to bend from D up to E, I would play the E note first, get the sound of that in my head as a reference, then go down to D and bend up to that note. Right? And try to match it. Right? And you have to make little adjustments if it's a little flat or a little sharp, but you want to train your hand and your muscle memory to kind of get that as accurately as you can every time. All right, guys, so go over to the Patreon site if you'd like the tabs and notation for this, or if you want to download this backing track to practice to. That's a great place to get all the lesson content that goes along with my videos here on YouTube. And until next time, happy practicing and take care.